Well, welcome to the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. I'm Harry Schroeder. Glad to be with you today. And man, we're just a couple of days from the opening of the basketball season. Monday, November 6th, we've got games starting all over the Fruited Plain. And we're excited to have the head coach of the Southern Illinois Edwardsville Cougars with us today, Brian Barone, our good friend. Brian, welcome to the podcast. Fans and broadcasters and writers, we're all like on pins and needles. Can't wait for the season. Is a basketball coach the same way, or is it like, oh no, the final exam is coming? Like which way is it for coaches?
Oh, I think. Well, I was a little more stressed at final exam week because I think my preparation going into finals was a little different than it is going into this week. But that's neither. Those are my younger days. But yeah, I mean, I think you're hey, do you have the last second play in? Do you have the 3/4 court play? Do you have are you totally ever ready? And at the end of the day, I think you're always going to push yourself to want to do more and be more engaged and all that kind of stuff on a day-to-day. But when it's all said and done, it comes down to, are your guys in a good state of mind to go out there and lay it all out on the floor? And I think that's where every coach right now is hoping their team is at.
You guys, how different things have become for your program. It's not maybe where you want it to be yet, but from 8 wins, 9 wins, 11 wins, 19 a year ago, picked second in the OVC this year, you have to be excited about just the growth pattern for the Cougar program.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I'm extremely proud of our team and the program and all the people that have been involved in it the last 4 years, going on 5 right now. And it's, you see the vision 4 years ago when you get the opportunity. And as a coach, you never know, there's a lot of good coaches out there that injuries, just tough situations, like a lot of things that happen that the growth doesn't always occur. And I think that, the biggest thing with our program is that we've stayed consistent. We've overcome a ton of hurdles and obstacles. But we've stayed together for the most part through all of that stuff, and you learn from your mistakes, and it's been nice to see the progression. Obviously for as a coach, you take, you get excited about that, but more importantly, just from a person that has relationship with these guys, it's really neat to see these guys experience, hard work and then success, and that's what it's all about.
When our kids are doing these interviews, my sons and your children, will still be talking about the Wright twins. It just feels like they've been there forever. And I know you talk about that relationship. You have a deep, long lasting, generational relationship with Shamar and Lamar.
I'm just so proud of them as young men. I just actually texted Shamar about something this morning, just saying how proud I am of them. And it sounds kind of cheesy. It sounds like I'm, on the podcast, you're saying that to make yourself look a particular kind of way. But at the end of the day, those guys make me a better person, better man, with their loyalty, with their hard work. And I think that, when they leave SIUE, I think that you're talking about 5 years that these two young men have been part of the program. And quite literally, the face of it for 5 years when you look at it. And, you have to show that level of appreciation for loyalty alone. They're good basketball players too. But in this generation right now, with what's kind of happening out there,
right,
to have a group of guys, especially those two that are going on 5 years now, we're doing something right. They either don't hate me too much and love each other a lot in that locker room, or they really like my wife and kids and each other a lot. But I'll take it either way.
As I mentioned, you guys are picked second in the OVC. You've got 4 starters back plus other returning players. When you saw that, the voting, you got picked second. Was that where you thought you'd be slotted, or did you think something different than that?
It's funny because when you look at the amount of retention that we've had, I think we're a known commodity, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that, hey, I don't know how many people picked us second, but I think a lot of people might have picked us in that middle wheelhouse, upper part, because they knew who we were. you really don't think about it. At least we don't, or I haven't, going into those votes. But what I told our guys is there's a certain amount of respect that they have at least garnered from a production standpoint in this league, where enough people think they have a chance. And for us, we think we have more than a chance, because that's what every team should think, right?
Sure.
11 teams should go into the conference thinking that. So I'm proud about the growth of the program, the respect that we have obtained over the years. But when it's all said and done, we have to be better today. We have to do what we need to do today to have success.
This is my annual "How's Rayshon's knee?" question. Like, how is his knee, and how is his rehab gone, and all of that. It was so. You guys are in the middle of the OVC tournament. You win that game, but lose Rashawn. I'm just, So anyway, just tell me how he is.
If anybody out there in needs any position ever filled outside of basketball and in any other part of their business, you have to hire the young man. Talk about putting a hard hat on. Talking about having a goal, a focus, a never quit attitude. That young man has done nothing but that from the time that he's, prior to even getting on campus, with what he did at Collinsville and, before COVID knocked him out of the state tournament run. He's doing well. He gave us 14 minutes, I think, the other day against East West. And that was kind of standard across the board for everybody. So, I mean, you go out there and he's Rayshon Taylor. I'm still going to be the neurotic coach that's always, hey, how you doing? Not just from a physical, but a mental standpoint. And he's going to be the same player that looks at me and basically saying, stop asking me. I'm good. So he's doing great, and I'm really proud of him.
He has a cousin, Brian, that's on the team. I read somewhere it's his cousin. I don't know if that was like a typo, but you have some guys coming in that are very interesting, and Brian Taylor's one of them.
Yeah, so we recruited Brian out of high school. That is Rayshon's cousin. Mm-hmm. He ended up going to Milwaukee. Had success there as a program, and decided to come back. And I like the fact that I kind of recruited him just a year prior. You saw what he was about, what he's capable of doing. I'm very excited about Brian. It's always hard when you don't get an opportunity to get on the court for a year. They had success up in Milwaukee. He helped every single day. He just didn't have necessarily the minutes on the court. I think that, as he continues to gain confidence, push himself to the expectations that we have of him, because I am a big believer in him. I think he can be someone that is very exciting, and it's kind of cool to have you preach family, you try to live the family, but then like when you actually have some built-in family in there, it helps a little bit with a few of the dynamics on our program.
When I look at your roster and the new guys, because of course we know a little bit about the guys that have been around, we've talked about this before. Recruiting from the right places is a big deal too. Like he came from DeSmet, and you've got one guy from Frank Phillips, which is a big place, and another guy from Moberly, and you programs are maybe not as important as the player, but they give you a hint, don't they, that a player's legit.
Yeah, I mean, like it's always, especially in this day and age, when you're looking at, whether it's transferring, whether it's junior college or even high school, I never understand why people don't call the other coach. And it's just information. I can choose to take it or not take it, right? But you still should follow up on that information. And I like the programs that we've recruited from. I think that, there's been Dorian Staples was at Moberly and had success a couple years ago in Hutch. Eddie Olaseon is from Longwood, who's had success, and obviously Frank Phillips was good as well. So you have those conversations with those coaches. Milwaukee had success with Brian Taylor, DeSmet, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's extremely important. Indian Hills with Eddie Torado. So you can kind of go down the line with a lot of these guys, and I think it's important to have conversations to see what the base is, what to expect. Because when guys come in with a certain expectation, and they as a coach, I think there's something, and then there's something else. That's tough, because it's not really fair to the young man, because I have this certain kind of like, I thought you could do this. Your coach said you could do this, and you're really not that. and then you're trying to live up to something, and you're not strengthening your strengths or working on your weaknesses necessarily. And I think that's important in recruiting. You have to have conversations with the people that have surrounded them over the years. I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Talk to me about Jordan Pickett. He Belleville East guy, and he was all Metro. And I tell people all the time, to be all Metro is better than being all state. What I mean is that all Metro thing in the St. Louis area, you're a big deal if you're an all Metro guy. But talk to us about Jordan Pickett.
Well, first of all, whenever you recruit locally, all right, which I think is something you have to do. We've had success, fortunately, over the years with several local guys these last 4 years. You have to have a base. They have to, in my opinion, they have to have a very strong base around them, a foundation of family coaching. And Jordan Pickett has that. He has brothers that older than him. Obviously, Javon most recently was at St. Louis and Missouri. His parents are very strong, supportive individuals. And then, he comes from being very well coached and going against competition every day in that conference. So I'm extremely excited about him coming in here from a local talent standpoint of being able to, be strong enough to fend off the good and bad, to be honest with you, and just stay focused. And I think he has a great support system. And, then you're talking about him as a person, which is awesome. He's a very good person. And then at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, he's a really good basketball player. So, but I think you have to look at everything, especially locally. And he's doing a really good job. And I think as he continues to get more and more comfortable, as he continues to get more and more experience, he's just going to continue to progress over these next several months and years.
We talked about Frank Phillips College. I'm not going to say the first name right. Adiola soon. I might even say the last name right. I don't know the young man from Nigeria. Tell us about him. A bigger guy, 6'9".
6'9", 7'5", 7'6" wingspan. Had an injury last year at Longwood that put him out. Pretty nice. That comes from a nice program.
But wait, how close was I on the name?
Really good, and I'm not gonna try it either because I feel like I screwed up on it. I call him AD.
Okay,
it's real simple.
I'll leave that then.
And he hasn't played a ton of minutes. He's 3 years. He's a big guy. He has he's very physical. I think his progression is going to be something that we're going to see a jump sooner than later. Whether it's on the court or in games or not in games, his most important thing is to go on a day-to-day basis. Play basketball, and he didn't have the opportunity to play last year. He was out for really the whole year and didn't even really work out. So we've had him for the last few months, and he's been doing a good job of trying to figure some things out. And he's a big person for sure.
Your diamond in the rough. Talk to me about Arnie Sakenis. I don't know if I'm even saying that in the last name right, but talk to me about him. He was a guy that kind of ended up in your lap a little bit, but just tell me how he's developing. I remember you and I talking about him a year ago, and that he had some raw talent and was going to, like you were just talking about soon, that he's going to need some development, but he's got real potential. Yeah,
I'm a big believer in Arnie. And more importantly, the entire team's a big believer in Arnie. When you're sitting there having, we had some success last year, and, you obviously want to have more success, but we were doing some good things. And at the end of the season, when he gets in those last 3 or 4 games, it's a hard decision to make and giving someone an opportunity that hasn't played. But at the end of the day, he earned the opportunity to really come in and contribute. His teammates are huge believers in him. I'm a very, very big believer in him as well. He does anything you ask him to do. He works his tail off. He shows up every day. He gets beat up every day, keeps his mouth shut, and does it again. I just think that his progression is, in game experience is going to be kind of the next phase of it. He came in and produced at the end of the season last year. Now can you do it on a day-to-day basis in games? And he'll have some ups and downs like we all will, but I love that young man. He's done nothing but improve our program and improve himself from the day he got on campus.
How different will you guys be this year with the makeup of your team? Meaning DeJuan Pruitt was such a big part of your team, and he's kind of an explosive guy. Mm-hmm. The players taking that role, I would guess, would be Thompson and Staples and others. Like, how will you be different in terms of the way it looks on the floor?
I think that when you look at it, there was a stretch in there where he didn't play.
Well, he was out. Yeah.
Illinois State, Bradley, Troy. I know we played someone else right in there as well, and so I will be different at times from that standpoint of the explosiveness and size in that position. But you have Lamar Wright, who really sacrificed a lot last year to give guys opportunities to try to, be in the best position from a physical and mental standpoint to have opportunity to play. And Terrence Thompson, I think, is another guy that people kind of, forget about a little bit. We didn't have him at the end of the season either. Mm-hmm. He had hurt his knee at Tennessee State towards the end of the season, and he was really an impactful guy for us. He was consistent in what he did. Now we need to continue to keep him healthy. And he can bring a lot to the table from a size 6'8", shot block, high IQ, physical presence. So yeah, we definitely are going to be a little bit different in that dynamic. There are some negatives, but there are a lot of positives as well. And we've actually we kind of played that way last year for when we were playing really well at one point as well.
He is, you can tell me I'm wrong about this. He's like a good soldier. I'm talking about Thompson. Mm-hmm. He is a guy that's just going to go do his job. That's the way he appears to me when I've seen you guys play.
He sacrificed a lot last year. I mean, he you sit there at the end of the year and you look at yourself, you're like, what could have I done better as a coach? You have to do that, in my opinion. Otherwise, you're just pointing the finger too much. And, he was one of the guys that, what you just said, he was so loyal. He was a very good teammate, engaged on the sideline, all that kind of stuff. You call his number, he goes in, puts in some work, and then gets out of there. Probably could have and should have had some more opportunity at times. His health was up and down a little bit, a few times with a couple injuries that knocked him out of some games. But I think it's, now is he ready for that next step of that accountability, those expectations? That I think he's very capable of impacting our team in a positive way. But yes, your observations. He's a high IQ kid. He's got a great personality. He's very engaging. He just now has to be consistent on the court, and I got to be the one that gives him that consistency, that consistent opportunity.
Just a couple more questions. We've gone, I'm looking at my clock, 17 minutes. I haven't asked you about DeMarco Polo. He was such a great addition to your team last year. You told me before the year he was going to be awesome, and then he was. What can you expect more or different from him? I mean, the guy was so electric.
Yeah, I think the one thing he just works. He's a guy that's in. He had a really good summer in terms of his work ethic. He's one of those, he's a morning guy. He's a late night guy. He likes to get in the gym. I think one of his biggest assets is a flaw as well. His competitiveness within himself. He is very competitive. He knows he's put in work. So if you miss a shot or don't make the right play, he wants to almost force the next play because he knows he can do it, and he knows he's put in the work. And I love that about him, right? You don't want to, it's hard to light the flame. It's tame the fire is a little bit easier. And he's a very willing teammate. He is extremely loyal. He takes tremendous pride in his loyalty. And I expect big things. Him and Ray Sean, are very dynamic in terms of how they complement each other. They have a lot of similarities, how they can put the ball in the basket, but they kind of do it in different ways. And then he can just be a nuisance defensively. When he chooses, and when we choose as a team to support him at the top of that, anything that we're doing defensively, he becomes even more of a presence than he is when he has the ball in his hands.
And at 6 foot, he's a dynamic rebounder. I mean, the guy is just amazing how well he positions himself and works to get those rebounds.
This is the old school, or maybe I'm projecting my own lack of ability. The 1 and 2 back every time, and you better stop the ball, and you better this, and you better know every play, and all that kind of stuff. And then next thing you know, he's in there. He has 3 rebounds on one possession, and I'm like, all right, someone else get back, because he's always looking at me like, let me go. And it's a will, it's a relentlessness. And yeah, so there's time, and he's in there a lot. He gets in there, and he has that, if he knows, like, he has a knack to know if that ball's not going in, to chase it down. So we just have to adjust on the back end, make sure we get back on defense or get the ball and lay it in. So that helps too.
Your schedule is not the easiest one I've ever seen, but I think it's a good schedule. You've got some really tough opponents. Talk a little bit about your like or dislike of what you've got in your schedule. You got Bradley, you got Missouri, a number of other people. You open at Dayton. Talk about your schedule.
I think it's probably the most difficult one since I've been here, in my opinion, in terms of, other than like the first year I was here, we went from Texas to South Dakota to Northern California to Southern California, back here, and played like that logistically. But, you don't want to do that when I inherited that. But I think from the standpoint of scheduling is unique because it's multi-years out sometimes. And then when you have success, not everyone wants to play you quite as much. Not because they're scared at you, not because they think you're a great coach or anything like that, but like, you're always trying to win games, right? And when you go in and you have, some guys returning in the era where there's a lot of unknown, we were known. So it was hard for us to, get people to call you back sometimes and agree to do what you have to do with some of the games you have to go on the road. And so I'm excited about it. We open at Dayton. We have a very good North Park team, very, very good North Park team. And that, certain dates you have to plug in, and we're doing a Veterans Day on the 9th, and you don't, then all of a sudden you don't have any teams. Like, so it's hard to find those games. So then you go over to Missouri. We have a very tough tournament down at South Alabama. You have a Missouri Baptist. And then we also have a Detroit from 4 years ago. We played them my first year, and with COVID, different conference schedules, with the Horizon League, it's been difficult to schedule because sometimes they can't schedule the end of November and the beginning of December. Then we have finals the second week of December. There's so many things that go on in the scheduling process that finally Detroit's coming back. You have a Green Bay team. You go to Ball State. You obviously have Bradley again, and then you're starting conference, and then you end conference with 6 out of 8 on the road. So, you try to do the best you can, and then the things that are not controlled, they throw at you too.
Yeah, 6 out of 8 on the road at the end. Yikes! You better have built up some wins and then been tough on the road. Final thought, maybe one or two more, but Angus Thorpe, I thought was such a great hire for you. Talk about him.
I've known AT for. It's probably going on 20 years. He was somebody that worked under Tim Buckley, who was one of my coaches from Marquette. And he was with him at Ball State. He was at Green Bay right before me. So he was part of that foundation that we kind of took over at Green Bay, that, which was nice as well. Obviously, he was under one of the best coaches of all time, and Coach Majerus. AT's a head coach. That's what he is. He's a head coach, and he's sitting right by my side. And I think that, he gets how to run a program. He gets how to relate to players and get the best out of them. He tells them the truth while also building a relationship, and he knows how to go get players. So yeah, I'm extremely excited. I have a really good staff. I like a really good staff. I go in at the end of the day having to live up to their energy and expectations, which is really nice and challenging.
So when you go to Lindenwood, will you have Angus go up against Anthony Bean? Just let those two play it out? I mean, those guys were together a long time there at SIUE.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, let's have those two duke it out a little bit. I'm sure that game won't have any other energy either.
Well, we're super excited about just where your program's going, Brian, and how it's growing and how it's developing. And you talked about staff. Man, building a program is a lot more than just finding good players, isn't it? I mean, even there at SIUE, they're adding parts like a club kind of level and stuff. There's just super positive things going on all around, what you're involved in.
Yeah, I mean, Chancellor Minor a few years ago comes in here, and you see his impact. You see, you hear his vision, you see his vision, and his support. Andrew Gavin comes in here a few months ago. And
really liked him when I met him. Yeah.
Good person. Yeah. He's a very good person, and he's a very good athletic director. He comes in here with a positive attitude, a vision of a willingness to try to enhance the programs that he's leading, willingness to think outside the box. I think that's one thing that over the years at SIUE, there's just like in any program or any university, at times people kind of do what they do because they've always done it. Mm-hmm. And when the results aren't what you want, then maybe you have to do some different things. And I think that, you live and learn, and that's something that I try to do with our program through successes and failures. And I think that our leadership is definitely willing to continue to support, grow, enhance, and make a name for our athletic department and university as a whole. And you can feel it. You can feel it. There's no doubt about that.
Appreciate your time today. Wish you the best of luck this year. I'll be over. I never know what your arena's called anymore. They changed the name. Somebody sponsored it or something, but I'll be there to see you guys play. Appreciate your time today.
No, I appreciate it. You're always one of the best I ever talked to, just inherently as a interview and things like that, but more importantly as a man. And I value our time and our conversations every time we talk, Harry. I really mean that.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way. Appreciate it. That's Brian Barone. He's the head basketball coach at SIUE. The Cougars are going to be really good this year. Picked second in the OVC. And we appreciate Brian's time today. Remember, since you've been there, make it a better place. We'll see you again real soon.